I need an orange box for this here. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you. Anyhow, gosh, I'd rather sing a song.
Feel free.
No,
don't let us stop you.
Plenty of time for that tonight. Anyhow, this feels like a bit like Mr. and Mrs. I feel like we should put a headset on Martin and then call him back and ask him questions later. And God help him if he gets them wrong, to be a row on the way home. Anyhow, where was I? Oh, I should get into it. I'd be very conscious of Jonathan making hand gestures, only because I can't make any back. Maybe that's a good thing, Jonathan. And I'm watching out for that gory gang. Where are you? They're hecklers at the back. They were threatening me last night with all kinds of heckling, you know. I felt like I'd be like Rory McIlroy's missus going home complaining about no drinks now. I know what you're like down there. Anyway, I get very giddy, so I better calm down and relax a little bit, or I'll be in trouble with the boss. Well, I'm the boss, but for today we'll pretend he is. So, good morning, everyone, again. Firstly, let me say how honoured I am to be here with you all at the Irish Motor Neuron Disease Association conference. Standing here with you all today feels both humbling and empowering. This room is filled with people who understand motor neuron disease in one way or another. To support someone with it or to work tirelessly for progress. Thank you for welcoming me. My name is Geraldine Phillips, otherwise known as Jerry, and this is my husband, carer, cleaner, chef, counsellor, makeup artist, hairdresser, and general dog's buddy, Martin. I'm 58 years old, and like many of you, I never imagined I'd be standing at a podium like this. For most of my life, I worked as a receptionist, secretary in finance, and then later I retrained as a horticulturist, working part-time in a garden centre. They used to call me Jerry Geranium. After we had our 2 children, Lara and Robert. We are lucky enough to live in Laytown, County Meath, by the sea, where I've always loved walking, gardening, and my hobbies included playing the piano accordion. I was busy, independent, and rarely thought about what my arms could do until they couldn't. My symptoms seemed to start as far back as early 2019, after a bad fall and concussion. And like many of you here, it was put down to trapped nerves and the like. I just need to move that to the left a little bit, please. Until January 23, when the lack of power and muscle weakness in my left arm was most alarming and resulted in my first appointment at Beaumont Hospital. When the follow-up appointment came for 12 months later, I just couldn't believe it was going to be so long to have to wait. So I went personally to the neurology department, used my charm, did a bit of begging, bribing, you name it, and I managed to get a second appointment to see a neurologist and an EMG test within a few weeks. Hence, I was diagnosed in December 2023 with a limb onset. It's absolutely devastating receiving a diagnosis like this, even if it does give a name to all your symptoms. It changes everything in an instant, and the feeling of grief was overwhelming. But I also remember what came next. The fear and the loneliness set in. I'd never known anybody with this disease. Telling family and friends was so difficult, emotionally draining, and very depressing. The IMNDA was the first organisation I turned to. The lovely Anya, where are you, Anya? Good Anya. She came to visit my house, where I bent her ear with my life story, I think, and gallons of tea, and suddenly I wasn't alone. There were people who understood the treatments, the fears, and the disease. This time last year, even though we were a bit apprehensive, we attended our first IMNDA conference in Dundalk. Dundalk's only up the road from where we live, Dundalk. We walked into the hotel, and I felt very overwhelmed, if I'm honest. I felt like turning around and going home. This is not a club I wanted to be in. However, we stayed and we mingled and we chatted, and I felt far more comfortable. After taking part in the conference and the workshops, we really felt a sense of belonging. And personally, I felt less lonely. I found connecting with all the people at the conference so empowering and the biggest boost to my confidence since being diagnosed. By the end of the conference, I had the sense of belonging to a new family. I remember very fondly chatting to the late, lovely Eileen Butler, who, even without a voice, I felt able to, she gave me such encouragement and acceptance. I felt able to face my neighbours and friends and come out, so to speak, to them by organising my own Walk While You Can walk. I went straight into organising my walk and planning mode, and it gave me such a buzz and really like my old self. I suddenly changed from being a background Facebook lurker in the background and to befriending and sending out more new friend requests than I could imagine. And a week or so later, when I had more best friends than I could count, I hit the send button telling everyone I had MND, and I was asking them to join me in taking part in the IMNDA Walk While You Can on our local beach, and to ask them, of course, for all their money, their donations. I turned the phone off, very anxious, went to bed, like I had dropped a bomb, opened a can of worms, I suppose, and I woke up to so many supportive messages. Then I went on the beg, and actually found I was very good at that, actually. So our local pub agreed to host everyone and give us free tea and coffee. A local restaurant agreed to supply lots of cakes and pastries. Our neighbour was happy to MC for us and to do the music. We couldn't believe the hundreds of people that turned up that day on the beach. Astonishing. It was truly humbling and a little overwhelming. We partied in the pub where our son Robert sang and played piano. People sang karaoke till closing time, until we were thrown out, pretty much. It gave us an amazing day, and it felt like a great weight was lifted off my shoulders. And what's more amazing is the amount of money that people donated to the IMNDA. Living with MND has changed our daily life so much. I need help with almost every task, from washing to dressing myself, to eating meals. I can't believe I actually have to ask Martin to adjust my knickers and bra straps walking up and down the street, things I never thought I would do. And that's just mentioning a few that I can mention here. Don't even start about the itches. There are days when I feel angry, sad, or just tired of it all. And that's okay and to be expected. But there are also days when I feel profoundly grateful for the kindness of a stranger, for a meal I didn't have to cook, for the moments where my family rally and friends rally around me. These moments matter more than I ever realized. One of the biggest lessons I've learned since the diagnosis is the power of community. No one, absolutely no one, can do this alone. The support of organisations like IMNDA, healthcare professionals, and researchers make a world of difference. So does the informal stuff and the support, like neighbours, friends, carers, and other people living with MND. We share tips, we share stories, we share our frustrations and our small victories. And through that sharing, we find strength. I've also learned to advocate for myself, to ask questions, to speak up about my needs, to plan for the future, even when it's hard, and to keep finding joy in the present. It might be a new hobby adapted to my changing abilities, or simply having the crack and the laugh with my mad sisters, drinking gallons of tea and having the crack. These are not small things, they're everything. When you live with MND, hope can look different than it once did. It may not be the hope for a cure tomorrow, though we must never, ever give up on that. But it can be hope for good care, for dignity, for time with loved ones, for the ability to communicate and to be heard. It's also hope for the next person who will be diagnosed and perhaps one day curable. Perhaps one day curable. IMNDA, more needs doing. That's why conferences like this matter so much. They bring together people who are fighting on every front: patients, carers, researchers, clinicians, advocates. They remind us that progress is being made and that voices matter, and none of us are forgotten. And to those of us living with IMNDA or caring for someone with it, we are not alone. Together, we can share knowledge, support one another, and keep pressing for better treatments, better services, and ultimately, a cure. I don't know exactly what the future holds. None of us in here does. But I do know that communities like this one make the journey less frightening and far more meaningful. We really are facing, a difficult disease, but we are also surrounded by extraordinary people. So thank you very much to the IMNDA for 40 years of looking after families like ours. To you, Martin, I can never thank Martin enough, and my family, my lovely little family, my friends, and to the professionals and volunteers, and to each and every single one of you in this room. Thank you for your work, your courage, your kindness, and your hope. Thank you for walking alongside me and so many others. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Sorry, mine will be just brief. So, good morning. So, our story, I'm from just outside Manchester. Jerry's from Dublin. We met in Lanzarote 28 years ago now. And after 2 or 3 years of to and froing, Ryanair flights and telephone calls, etc., I left my job as a policeman in Great Manchester and came to live here. We got married in 2001 and luckily found a job not far from where we live. We have 2 lovely children, both now at college, and we lived happily ever after, till December 2023. So when someone you love gets this news, it's really a shock that takes a long time to settle down. If ever, really. It took us till the end of January to even start telling our children and family of the diagnosis. And I remember then, you feel like the life you thought you had is all changed, and you grieve for the life you were expecting to have. All you can think of was, what's the prognosis and what will happen and how long? I think I expected when we attended the first appointments at clinic that we would get a more specific trajectory and plan of things. But you soon realize this is not any sort of normal disease, and really the doctors follow you, not you following the doctors. What I really felt was important from early on was trying to get myself and Jerry to be mentally short-sighted, not to be caught up with too far in the future, and as she gradually needed more help, making her feel that help was just part of our new normal, wasn't a burden. So December last year, not so much out of necessity, but opportunity, I suppose, I took carer's leave and left work to be home full time. And soon you realize it's a bit of a complex job, having to be somebody else's arms and hands, as well as your own, takes a bit of getting used to. So as she says, from bra straps to knicker elastic to blow dries and fake tans, you get very familiar with it all. And then there are all the jobs that Cherry used to do in a certain way. And of course, she sees them all and lets you know how to do them properly.
At least you can do that with your hands. I couldn't do that bit. Sorry.
And then there's the row. Well, you can't really have words. You can't really. You have words and they are not speaking. And the next thing, you have to hooch up her pants and then that's all gone. You have to laugh. We keep each other's spirits up. She helps me as much as I help her. And we do know how lucky we are in many respects. We were able to enjoy a few breaks away this year and really made the most of our time. And I think that's the best we can all wish for. A good friend of mine lost his wife to cancer during COVID and struggled to look after it alone during the shutdown. He said to me once, it was his privilege to have been able to look after her, and I hope that is what all carers feel. I also would like to extend my gratitude personally to the IMNDA for their support and help, for creating this community for all our benefit, and for being our voice for people that don't have a voice. Thank you very much.